Recording in progress.
Okay.
Okay, we're going to call the August 5th Gearhart City Council meeting to order. Is there any declaration of conflict of interest from any members?
No.
No. I need a motion to add an agenda item, and that is resolution 1018, which was on your desk. We'll add that to ordinances and resolutions.
Move to add resolution 1018 to the agenda.
I'll second.
Any discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Is the mayor on the call? Do we know?
I can see him. There are two telephones.
Yeah, no, I'm not sure yet. Mayor Smith, are you online? Doesn't appear so.
Okay, so it looks like we've got 4 attending right now. We want to go ahead and approve the minutes, work session from June 30th, 2026. Their motion.
I'll make a motion to approve the minutes from the work session in City Council Tuesday, June 30th, 2026.
Second.
Any discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? With the green. Need a motion for the regular meeting minutes, July 1st, 2026.
Move to approve the minutes from the regular meeting of the City Council Wednesday, July 1st, 2026.
Is there a second?
I wasn't there, so you're gonna have to second.
I'll second.
I didn't see any corrections.
I didn't have any corrections.
I have a question on page 4, in the top part, it says number 2, beach and dune overlay cleanup. What does that mean?
Well, Garrett's going to explain some of that tonight during the presentation of his visit.
Okay.
Yes.
All those in favor say aye.
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 I think I'm gonna have to abstain. I wasn't there.
Still not, I think.
Jennifer will stay.
Next we have the planning commission minutes as their report. Any comments or questions? Time for the mayor's report. Is the mayor on the call?
Doesn't appear so.
Okay, we're gonna skip that for now. Counselor reports. Dana, you want to go ahead?
Okay. So this month I spoke with a lot of citizens about post July 4th. I also spoke with both of our chiefs about things that went well and things didn't go so well, and some preliminary planning and corrections that need to be made. I'm sure that they can better discuss that. I also attended the Cedar meeting, during which there were 2 main things that stuck out for, well, quite a few things that stuck out for me, but one of the major things that stuck out for me was Clatsop County. The majority of the cities in our county have stood behind the county's position about BPA's reduction in funds to mitigating their dams and supporting the coastal wildlife at the hatcheries. And they're going to be pulling back some money and looking at some different ways of mitigating that. Most of the cities around believe that that will be a problem for not only recreational, but commercial fishing, as well as could have an impact on our sea life off of our coast. So I'll talk a little bit more about that during my council concerns at the end. Also, Javadi's representative was there and said that he is gearing up for planning. Should he win the election, he would like us to be prepared to submit our legislative asks for the next year immediately after the election. So that's something that we need to start putting in place now. And also there is at Clatsop Community College, they are starting a small business management course on September 23rd. It's been condensed from 4 months to 2 months. And then there's also a startup camp there. If you're interested, contact Clatsop Community College for this small business management. That's what I have. Okay. Preston?
Well, I've spoken with a number of people in Gearhart, and they're concerned about finances. And, you know, so am I, but I said that, you know, we have limited resources. And I don't know how we're gonna get around that. Anyway, and then, not a brighter note, but, Mark Nygaard, who's been a champion of this town his entire life, passed away last month. And just, they're having a celebration of life for him at the fairgrounds on the 29th. So for those people who've been Martin, he was a really decent individual. That's all I have to say.
Thank you. Sharon?
Okay, several things. I went to the Seaside Airport Committee meeting last week, and I'm resigning from that. Pat Woolner is going to take my place as the Gearhart representative. I've notified Seaside, City of Seaside as well as Seaside City, the council. I've done it for 3 years, and I think that's enough. So I'm done with that. I had citizens come to me about several things over the past month. The first, obviously, is where we're at with the post office, finding a spot for the cluster boxes, et cetera, et cetera. I don't know, Chad, if you want to address that maybe in your report, but I get questions about that all the time. Secondly, there were a couple of comments about them mowing out in the dunes. I've discussed this with Chad. It was still bird nesting season when they mowed out there. We have determined, and Chad, you can please correct me if this is not your understanding, we've determined that mowing is going to be held off until August 1st from now on. But we need to get that into the ordinance. We need to get some wording about that into the ordinance. Lastly, we had quite an event up in my neighborhood, which a lot of people walk around in my neighborhood. A lot of us own dogs. Yeah, so it's a pretty close-knit group, and one of the citizens who lives up in that area walked on a road that she's walked on many times. She is friends with one of the people who lives off that little road. It's a little jog off to the east from North Summit. And she was unfortunately trespassed for being on that road. So I have two questions about that situation. Number one, none of us, including people who have lived up in that area for 30 and 40 years, I've asked a lot of people, none of us knew that that road was a private road. Nobody knew that, okay? All of us have been on that road. Nobody's ever said anything to us when we walked on that road, and we did not know it was a private road. There is no signage. So my first question is, why is there not signage? And should there be signage? Second question is, allegedly, in order to walk on that road, you have to have, there's 4 homeowners whose driveways come off that road. Allegedly, you have to have permission from all 4 of those people who Liv, no, you're shaking your head. Okay, this is what I heard, that, now I'm looking at our police chief. That you have to have all those people's permission to walk on that road. That didn't make sense to me. So my next question is, if you have one person who lives on that road, if you have their permission, can you walk on the road? So we're all confused. All of us who live up there, we don't know, we don't understand, we're alarmed. Anyway, it's been a big deal. So,
Is it a through street?
no,
Would you like me to answer some questions?
absolutely, if you would like to.
So that's actually an easement for those 4 homes. Two of the 2 that are on the very far east end own half of that driveway. It's not a road at all. It's just a driveway. It's no different than from your road to your house, paved portion to your garage. It's just longer. It's a shared easement between those houses. You would have to have, if you were trespassed from one of those properties, you would have to have express permission to go to another resident that was located on that property. In this situation, the property owner on the other half that shares the other half of that driveway, as far as GIS shows, has given that person permission to allude to concession. That is okay. And the person was expressed that. She just has to stay on that side of the driveway.
Okay, she does not understand that at all.
Made it very clear multiple times, and I've had correspondence with her since then. Yeah, as far as that goes though, that driveway, the owner of that property has complete rights to trespass wherever they would like to. And something led up to them being trespassed in the first place. So I don't think this owner is really just looking to trespass people just because.
Yeah, I know, I don't wanna lay any blame anywhere.
Oh, no, I don't.
I think all of us who live up there need to understand the situation. It needs to be made clear to us what we can and can't do. As I say, none of us knew it was a private drive. It doesn't look like a drive, it looks like a road. We've all walked up there on occasion, so.
And it may not hurt for the owner to put a private driveway there.
Right,
That might not be a bad idea.
should be there should be some signage, I think. Yeah, thank you,
Thank you.
that's all.
Thank you. My report, I did some volunteer work for the street dogs on the 3rd of July. Was it the 3rd? Yeah. Went to the Gearhart Association meeting on the 5th as the council representative, answered questions that folks in attendance had one meeting with Chad. And, talked with residents really about the same things, the post office, the bother that it is, the desire to have it downtown is what I've heard. And yeah, I would like any kind of update on that myself. That's all I have. City officer reports, chief of police.
Right, good evening. Might be a little bit longer than normal. July was fun. So just quick stats. We had 137 total calls for service for the month of July. Keep in mind that was without one officer for about 20 days of the month. So we would have had quite a bit, and especially since he's the most active officer we have, we probably would have gotten closer to 200. That totals us for 865 total calls for services this year. And again, I'll remind y'all that's with three officers, and that does not include the contract with county and what county responds to or deals with in the city of Gearhart. 4th of July, let's get that over with. For the weekend, we had 64 total calls for service. 37 of them were on the 4th of July. 19 were traffic stops. We had 10 liquor violations. The reality of that is we could have had a lot more. Liquor violations being minor in possession of alcohol, minor possession of even cannabis and things like that. What are the issues? Well, the issues we run into are the time to process that. If we get a minor who's under the age of 18, And keep in mind, Oregon minor goes from, till the age of 20 when you're considering alcohol. So if we have someone that's under 18, we have to contact parents, do that whole thing. These kids are from Portland, parents, have to decide if they're coming out here to get them. That really holds an officer up. So it's not advantageous, but it happens. There's another factor. We're all busy, every agency in the area, and so Seaside dispatch is bogged down. So we have a lot of situations where we're dealing with things that really honestly don't go out over the radio. We just kind of deal with it right there and then move on. So there would be a lot more calls for service. A lot of issues we had, tons of minors consuming alcohol on the beach. And in the city, it was the worst I've seen since I've been at Gearhart. Pretty close to the worst I've seen and since I've been in Clatsop County. As far as consumption, the minors are out of control. There's a lot there. I've heard this rite of passage thing that is just driving me nuts. And we got to do something about that. They have a total disregard for the law. I remember my first year here, the video of us walking up to the large group of teenagers and them running up the dunes and taking off. That does not exist anymore. They just stand there and look at you. They just don't care. So we got to figure that out too. We had a lot of camping along roadways. I had a couple of complaints about that. We tried to deal with the camping on the street issue. There was a lot of illegal parking. The reality of it is I came in at 10 that day and did not get home until 6 in the morning. We never stopped through the night to end the night with a traffic crash where a young lady ran into a trooper that was on a traffic stop on 101. So we had to work that. It's in our city and they can't work that because they're in the crash. So there's a lot of medical attention needed. We actually had an overdose on the beach and had to work that. While I was working that, there's video that we have of people throwing mortars at my police car and blowing up at my police car. So it was a little bit out of control down there. So we have a meeting with local stakeholders in this: OSP, fire department, Seaside PD, county. We're going to bring in the juvenile department. We're trying to get creative ways to work next year to just alleviate some of our duties and hand them to the agency that really would be best fit for that. So we have a meeting on the 17th about this. So hopefully we can start early, find some resolution, and then next year maybe have a better grasp on it. Okay, any questions about the fourth? I'm sure there's some. Go ahead.
Yes, first question, rite of passage?
Yeah, so what I'm hearing is this has been going on for decades, that juvenile minors from schools from, let's say, Washington County, Clackamas County, Lake Oswego, Jesuit, to Walton, those schools have been coming here. Their parents came here.
Oh,
And so it's just like, okay, we have this family home, we're gonna let all these kids stay, and
Yeah.
which is silly in its own right, but what it's caused is social media has gotten a hold of it, and Gearhart's the place to be on the 4th of July.
great, it's wonderful.
Yeah, and so if you look at, if you just go on Instagram, or TikTok, if you have it or whatever, and search Gearhart 4th of July, have fun. You're gonna see all kinds of just nonsense, and it's like the party for them.
Second question, is there any possibility of getting National Guard to help out?
That's funny you say that, because before it started, OSP gave everyone they could to us this year. We had 5 to 6 troopers at sometimes helping on the beach. The beach is theirs anyway, so we're kind of reciprocating there because we know that they're gonna come right back into town. This is where they're parking, they go out there, so we both had the same issue. I told the sergeant who was in charge of the team, before we went out there, I said, we're gonna need the National Guard to fix this, and he laughed, and I kind of giggled. At about 3 in the morning, I saw him right there, and I said, what do you think? He goes, National Guard.
No.
Like, it's just stone face, National Guard, like it was to that point. Now, if you want to do that, we're looking into a lot of issues, there's funding for that, who's gonna pay for it? Is it even that bad yet? Can we, explore other alternative sources? And there's some creative ones out there that I've heard. I'm not gonna throw out yet because I just don't know if it would work out, but then you run into the police state thing as well, right? You got a bunch of soldiers out here dealing with kids, yeah, so it might not be the best way to do it.
So you're saying the city would have to pay for that?
I don't know that. I don't know, but who would, that's the question.
Okay.
You know, taxpayer at the end of the day, but
Number one, that's a state park,
yes, sir.
okay?
And they're
So
gonna
like
be
you
meeting.
say, I mean, you know, they leave Gearhart when they reach the edge of the pavement. And they're on the beach, that's state park's property,
Mhm.
that's state park's problem.
But the issue with that
They
is,
come back again, then it becomes our issue.
the issue with it being state parks property is OSP is state parks enforcer. So OSP, state police are the ones that are gonna, and they're not slack, they realize it, they see it. It
Yeah,
was-
I mean, this has been going on since I was a kid.
Yeah.
Except that it's worse now.
It's a war zone. It was a war zone.
Yeah.
Out there. It was bad. It was bad. Any other fourth questions?
I just want to say
Thank
thank
you.
you for
Oh, yeah, no
everything that
problem.
you guys did. I know that you guys were walking around with that 1,000-yard stare, like Frankenstein stomping around here like you didn't know who you were or what you were after those long shifts.
Yeah, it's awesome. Thank you. Yeah, it's awesome. I'm gonna move on to the situation in Seaside. On July 8th, 2026, around 6:20. There was a double homicide suspect who was from Pierce County, was located in Seaside. The officers, attempted a traffic stop with this individual, and, Officer Merez responded. He was the third car there. When he got there, the suspect exchanged gunfire with the officers on scene and was, taken. So, Officer Merez was placed on administrative leave paid, which is standard protocol, and given some resources to work through the situation. He actually returns tonight. He just pulled up, I saw him a minute ago. It's his first full duty shift back. I will give a much more in-depth report on this next council meeting. It's still semi under investigation still. So there's just a little bit that needs to be pushed to the DA's office before they can release all the information. And, but I do look forward to having Merez and Sergeant Brown in here. The whole department played a role in that, and I'm very proud of our guys and our local law enforcement for how well we all work together. It's really a testament to training and how networking really does well. So it's good that Gearhart PD is working so closely with other agencies. Yeah, any questions about that? Go ahead.
Sorry,
Fire away.
I'm just curious. So the guy was from Washington, right?
Mhm.
So, I mean, are we like necessarily the next stop? Is it just coincidence that he came south instead of going east?
That's the third homicide suspect that's been caught in Clatsop County, this year alone. I have a theory that they try to stay away from Highway 5 or I-5, because of the cameras and high trooper populations, things like that. And they think that 101 will take them south. And so some of them decide to come this way. Some of them came here a long time ago. Like it's beautiful, maybe they don't want to make it. There's things like that that play a role, I think. All right, thank you.
Thank you.
Keep going.
Excuse me, sir.
Thank you. I'll have probably a little more lengthy detailed report as well tonight. We'll start with typical stats for last month. We had 161 total calls. 69 were in the city, 78 were in the district. We sent out auto mutual aid in the county 8 times. 5 was the Seaside. They had a search and rescue. They needed a specialized equipment help with that we had. 2 wildland fires, 1 MVA that had trauma, and then 1 time they needed extra manpower. We went to Astoria twice, both for structure fires, and Cannon Beach once for a structure fire. We received aid 4 times. Once was Oregon Department of Forestry for a burning complaint in Colby Lake. Standard they come on wildland burning stuff. We had a structure fire in Carlson Drive, which I'll go into a little bit more detail in a minute. And we got aid from Seaside, Cannon Beach, and Warrenton from that, which is our standard auto aid. We got from that. We had a wildland urban interface call, which means it's threatening structures. And so this fire was within a couple feet of the structure. We had aid from ODF, Astoria, Lewis and Clark, Warrenton, Seaside, and Cannon Beach on that, which again is standard automatic aid box alarms. When it goes to that level, as soon as dispatch hears second alarm, urban interface, those things just automatically come, those resources built in the system. Then we had a motor vehicle accident, which I'll go into a little more detail with that as well. But we had, aid from that one, from Lewis and Clark, Warrenton, Seaside, and Cannon Beach. And I'll touch on that more in a second. We had two, Oregon State Fire Marshals mobilizations, which involved us going to 6 different fires, 6 different communities, and I'll touch on that one again. First, I'll do 4th of July stats. 4th of July, we had 93 calls this year. I think last year we had 55. We had a total of 431 man hours for our crew that worked. We had 19 department personnel that had a 21-hour day that day, and our duty officer had a 24-hour shift, hour day for the board. Department-wide, we had 323 man hours. We had 6 additional family volunteers working for 175 man hours for that. We had 93 calls for service that broke down to, and this is just the 4th weekend, 3 structure fires, 13 fire investigations, 15 medical calls. One of them was an OD on the beach that involved 6 OSP troopers, 3 of the Gearhart police officers, medics. And the way that unfolded with fireworks being thrown at officers and everything, we ended up sending more personnel to help with that situation to get the person off the beach. We had 15 different public information calls for public assistance. 2 MVAs, one had 2 transports with trauma. One was one involving the OSP trooper working the DOI. We had 42 fire extinguishments, and that doesn't track all of them on the beach. The state wants us to track everything we go out and do. But multiple of them was we had 10 fires in this area that we put out there. Busy with that. One of the calls on the beach, a bonfire, was a rather large one. It was about 20 by 30, it was described, and they're throwing aerosol cans into it. And once they saw our personnel there rendering aid for the medical call, they decided it was the time to have a show for that. Because of what was going on, our resources were dedicated, and that didn't pose any more direct threat to what was around it. We triaged it and decided not to engage with that. On the 4th, I have a policy with the crew that no, as soon as the sun goes down, we get all resources off the beach, unless there's a call, just because of the environment that's down there with it. The people you engage down there are typically not fun to engage with. So when we go down there with a show of force. We want people to help with that. Some kind of good stats from the 4th. We gave up 1,400 hot dogs, 96 pounds of taffy. And the 4th cost a little over $3,000 to put on, which was all funded by the Fire Department Association with that. The structure fire in Carlson Drive, I mentioned. Let me stop, ask, is there any questions about the 4th?
No, just again, thank you.
We have a great crew,
And what you said, what you guys both said illustrates why some people wonder why we can't just have citizen volunteers running around taking fireworks away from people. And it takes a very special, talented person to take flaming things away from drunk people that don't want to up without getting hurt.
Right. Structured fire I had in Carlson Drive. I want to kind of take a second to talk about the volunteers with that. From the time we were toned out for that call, the volunteers had to respond to the station, get geared up, get on the apparatus, respond to the scene, which was in our fire district. Get on scene, set up the apparatus, pull the hose, and we had water applied within 10 minutes of being toned out of that call. It was a double garage, a detached garage. They kept it contained to the one half of the garage, and then the house only sustained 2 cracked windows and some blistered paint on there, so we saved everything from that. The 2 mobilizations we went on, both mobilizations involved 3 different fires each, so our crews helped out 6 different communities with that. And we brought in a substantial amount of finances for the city with that when we returned. And again, while I'm gone, the city doesn't pay for my salary. The fire pays for it, and the fire pays for my position to be backfilled here at home. While we were being deployed, there was not a single call that was unanswered in our fire district, even countywide. The crew really stepped up and rallied around. Hank did a fantastic job keeping everything running and going. With kind of talk of mobilizations, it's a give and take, just like auto mutual aid. I had a guy in my office, an Oregon State Fire Marshal deputy. I think it was July 7th. He was here with us. Showed him some of the videos, some of the Instagram and TikTok reels, and he said, "Josh, you've explained to me what happens in the 4th, and I didn't understand it until you showed me the videos." he thinks there's a potential to having, it's like a mobilization, having a crew pre-deployed here to help us. I can get a strike team with some firefighters here to help, and that doesn't cost us anything with that through the state fire marshal's office. So, just like we have Auto Beach Lake with other agencies, mobilization is going the same way, and there could be a chance we reap some of those benefits in that. The two large incidents we had at the exact same time. We had the urban interface wildland fire. A guy thought it was a great time to burn a large debris pile. Potentially a vehicle could have started it. Was claimed and spread to the brush around his house on both sides of his driveway. As soon as we started to get that fire barely under control, we had a motor vehicle accident about 500 yards up the highway, involved an ODF fire truck that was responding to that call, an SUV and a school bus with about 31 kids on it. We transported 7 people, triaged all 31 students on the bus, and these calls were both happening at the exact same time going on. With that, none of the kids were injured. We had to still triage them, get everything off the highway, get everything dealt with, the situation for there, extricate the driver of the school bus because she did have injuries. Sent 6 people in one ambulance to Seaside, the bus driver, and the ambulance to Astoria. With that, handled both those calls at the exact same time, which is why we have the auto aid mutually move ups to handle things with that. Because again, we're not Portland Fire, don't have 25 of our own fire station to go from. Unless there's any questions, that's what I have for you guys.
How many hours do you think you worked over July 4th?
I don't know. I know I at least have the 21-hour day that's on the books with it. But I'm
Thank you.
at least 21 hours. Yeah, it was a busy month.
Yeah.
Busy month.
Thank you.
Thank you guys.
Thank you.
City treasurer.
Okay. So noteworthy in the financials this month were some of our annual fiscal payments that we make. The property liability insurance with CIS, which actually did come in less than was budgeted. And it's charged to 3 different funds. We charge it to the general fund, the water operating fund, and the state street fund, with the majority going to the general fund. Workers' comp safe, we pay our entire premium in July. And it was higher in some areas. So there are some areas throughout the budget where it is a little bit over because of higher costs than we budgeted. Some other annual payments were our LOC annual dues in 1059, police software, our Central Square software in 101270, and our volunteer firefighter accident insurance, which we paid to Knutson's in 101348. There were also reimbursement expenditures in 101311 and 101312, which is the conflag salary and overtime pay, because they were deployed to help wildland operations in Oregon. It was just for a few days on this pay period, so the next the finance report, it'll be much more significant. There was also personnel costs associated with the OSFM summer grant in 101314 under temporary grant labor, which allows the fire department to hire temporary staff to assist with specific tasks. Really, the majority of that was for the 4th of July. They were able to hire and pay a lot of those volunteers. There were 2 large invoices received from the city's legal counsel, which were primarily related to planning issues. And I just want to throw out there that when we pursue alleged city violations that have been deemed civil issues, and we continue to investigate, that it does become very expensive. Those 2 invoices were just about $11,000 for a 2-month period. And as a reminder, the compensation lines were increased because of the 2.80% COLA that was approved for the budget effective July 1st, 2026. In the check detail report, there are several electronic withdrawals in there, and I just wanted to touch base on those. For some reason, we had several return checks or ACH payments where people had bounced checks or had credit card issues and the money has returned. So that is what an electronic withdrawal is, because it comes from the bank or the credit card company. We're trying to get our annual audit information organized. They're coming at the end of the month. They're coming August 24th. And they want most of the stuff by Monday. So just trying to get some of that stuff to them so they can prepare when they're here.
I have a question.
Sure.
I see that our planner, wrote up it was like a fairly comprehensive report. It's in our, additional paperwork.
It's not our planner.
That's not our
That's
planner?
Eric Eisman, that's Bob Moore's planner.
Okay, that's what I needed to know. Thank you.
Garrett is on the agenda, however.
He is on the agenda, yeah, he's gonna do some reporting on the work that the planning commission's doing.
That was, you answered my question. Thank you.
Justine, is that everything then?
That's it. Sorry.
Okay. And do we have the attorney?
I believe Ally should.
Yeah.
Yes.
Hi, everyone. Nice to meet you all. For those of you who haven't met, my name is Ally Snyder. I'm an attorney with BEH. Nothing to report on my end, but I'm glad to be here and I appreciate you having me remotely.
Thank you. And Chad, we have your report.
Gotcha. I won't go into too much detail about that report unless there's any questions that you have on any of these items. Figure we've got a longer agenda tonight. Got 3 pages there. I could read it line by line, but any questions for me? You can see how busy the team has been.
I just have, under strategic planning council priorities, a timeline for the second 2 bullets, which is town hall style meetings. And follow-up work with mayor and council president. Do we have a timeline for any of those?
We're looking at August 25th for that, and I'd like you to check your schedules to see your availability. That would work best for that particular date.
We're talking about
For
town hall?
town hall,
No, that's for the work session.
for work session.
Correct, and then after that, we will schedule the town hall.
So more like September, for the town hall.
Likely,
August what?
25th.
You want us to
So-
look now, or we should just?
We're gonna reach out to you here to make sure that you can do that date. We might have to make some adjustments, but we'll be doing that this week. Tomorrow or Friday.
And the only other question I had was time frame on getting a status update on the water, the additional water rights application.
I got an update from our water modeler, Chris Hyatt, with Hyatt Geosciences. He did check with Water Resources Division, and they are in the same place that they were the last time we checked, which is that our application and reports are on their desk and they're going through them. It's quite a lot of information, but they're still working through it, and they do not have an update for us other than they are working on it. We have a site visit happening from Water Resources Division here coming up, I think, next week. Part of that is something that we do frequently with them on a yearly basis anyway, so that they see how we collect data and how we do our reports. But you're also assuming that this might be in part of that project as well. They are going to be inspecting our water treatment facility, and they're going to be looking at our well sites.
And do they always do that? Or usually do?
I don't even think it's yearly, it's occasional that they do that, but we have that scheduled for next week, so.
The last time they did that, we came out as exceptional, right? Did
Yes.
they recognize us as being?
Mark McFadden and his crew are exceptional operators. They've never had a problem with the state, and our system is state of the art. And they operate it beautifully.
Any other questions for Chad?
I have a couple more updates just
Oh,
to,
yes, please.
I also want to mention the other staff during the 4th of July period, the lead up to it in the weeks, the aftermath, the tracking, the cost tracking, the event scheduling, all of the little extra things that go into preparing for and recovering from is also the rest of the staff that's here in this place. So we were all quite tired after that event, and it was overwhelming. That was the busiest 4th of July that I've ever seen in the 30 years I've lived here. And we do need to do some work to be able to better respond to these situations that are near out of control. And so we're going to be doing a lot of work moving forward. It's going to take us more staff time, more resources, and more planning in the future. So just be aware of that. And we're not sure where we're going to end up with that, but we'll start having some conversations with the city council as we are able to meet with the various other organizations that work with us on that. And we'll be reporting back to you on what we're working on.
My anecdote from the 4th of July is I talked to some of these young kids, they were parking down on 7th Street and walked to the beach from there. And I told them where it was okay to park or whatever I was talking to him about. And he goes, oh yeah, my family has a house down in Manzanita. And that was a clue. Like, okay, wow.
With the street dance that day, I worked 19 hours. That the 4th of July, I worked 22 hours. And it was it's a small team of people here. I don't think that some people in Gearhart understand what they've got in the team that they have, and especially not the volunteers. These volunteers put in so many hours. They did not spend the 4th of July with their family. They spent the 4th of July responding to these calls and trying to help out. And it was some dangerous moments for them as well, to where we were almost overwhelmed. And I just can't tell you how lucky we are to have the volunteers. I can tell you a paid fire station for the city our size could not have handled that situation. But because we have 25 volunteers that are dedicated to this city, I'm super impressed. And with Josh Como leaving on these confidential fires, not only were we covered, but we were covered better than normally. I mean, everybody came out of the woodwork and responded. The weekend after the 4th of July, there's 15 calls where they're leaving their house, their dinners, their families, to respond to these things. And I know there's a lot of criticism out there about our fire department and what they're doing and how they're spending money and what they need and what they don't need. But I want people to realize that these are real folks doing the job that a career firefighter does, no different. And super impressed. My only other update to get you up there is the USPS update. That's moving along a little slowly for the post office. So since my last update, USPS has confirmed the residents whose homes are located in the existing mail delivery routes that are now eligible to install individual mailboxes. Essentially, there's pocket areas, but south of Pacific Way. So we've been receiving permits for people that are wanting to install boxes, and they are now getting street delivery. Now they have, the USPS is working through and trying to finalize the numbers of residents who ultimately require service through a centralized cluster box unit system. So they're still coming up with their finalized numbers for that, and they're getting very close to it. Apparently it's a very tedious job. And then they will give us the number of cluster boxes that they're recommending for the city of Gearhart. And then it's going to be up to us and you, the council, to help us determine where we're going to put those cluster box units. And it's going to be one unit area where all the cluster boxes are located. They're not going to be spread around town because that is a USPS policy to have it in one area rather than spread throughout the town. USPS continues to evaluate the centralized CDU location for those properties that cannot receive street delivery. And we're working with USPS as they refine that service area and determine the final scope of the project. So I'll report more as it goes on, but I think things will start happening here soon. Any questions about that?
Is it up to the city to supply the property?
It's looking like that's the only opportunity. Yeah, there's no private property owner that's going to give up their property to put cluster box units in, and that's not a business model that USPS uses anyway. For a community to provide mail, usually it is public property of one sort or the other, and we're very limited in the amount of public property that we have. So the one area that we're looking at seriously is the one right next to us here. And there's problems with that in that that's the only piece of extra property that Gearhart owns. And if we have future projects or things like that, it won't be available to us. So this is council's going to help us make this decision, but we're going to be working on getting you the options the best that we can. Any other questions for me? All right. Thank you for your support during the 4th of July too, council. It was helpful.
Okay, we have visitors. Garrett Phillips, is he?
He is here, and I'm not
It
sure
looks
why.
like really small today.
I don't know why our screen is so small, so I'm gonna see if I can fix that.
That looks like the opening.
Oh, there he is. I see Garrett.
To the Brady Bunch.
I don't know why the screen is that small, but there's Garrett.
I see Garrett. Garrett, you have the floor.
All right, good evening, everybody. Please let me know if you're having any trouble hearing. So I came tonight to speak about a project that we're beginning to work on with the Planning Commission for a limited scope zoning code amendment to address 3 topics that are particularly timely now. And just to give you a brief overview of the topics and then and what we're doing, and then we'll come back and provide more information as we work with the Planning Commission on more details. So the 3 topics are complying with new state rules for Goal 5 cultural areas is one topic. The other one is a cleanup of the beach and dune overlay zone text. And the third topic is implementing some state housing laws that have been adopted over the years, and that will help the city be more efficient in processing residential development applications, some kinds of residential development applications. So for State Goal 5, cultural areas compliance, rules were adopted by the state in late 2025 that go into effect January 1st, 2027, that broadly, if I could sum it up most succinctly, require 2 things of local governments. One is that when a city receives an application for any kind of development that's going to involve ground disturbance and that requires some form of public notice. So imagine a partition application to divide lots where a new road is going to be installed, and it's predictable that that road is going to require ground disturbance. And we know that we have to provide a public notice for partition decisions. Under the new rule, we'll have to provide a specific notice on a unique timeline to certain tribes that register to receive those notices. And we'll have to respond to any comments that they provide specifically and meaningfully on the application. But it does not impose any new substantive standards on what is allowed to happen or not allowed to happen on the ground in Gearhart. So that's the first part of that. And the second one is that those tribes can also apply to the city to designate a site as a significant cultural resource site, which would initiate a comprehensive plan amendment process that includes some analysis and background report work as well. And so those are the two elements of the rule. And DLCD staff who we work with have advised all local governments to at least make some minimal updates to their zoning ordinances to provide staff and decision makers with guidance on what to do in those situations. And have also indicated it would be advisable to adopt fees to process the cultural resource site applications, because that can be a costly process for a city to handle an application like that. And so the objective of topic one is to at least provide ourselves as staff and consultants and you as decision makers with a framework to handle those two situations when they arise after January 1st, 2027. The second topic is about cleaning up and clarifying some points in the beach and dune overlay zone. And there's been some instances over the years that we've cataloged as staff that it feels like it's difficult for members of the public to understand what's in the overlay zone text, or we've had challenges communicating what's required there. And so we're going to be taking a look at clarifying some provisions of the overlay zone. And then in terms of state housing law compliance, topic 3, there's been a long list of housing laws that have been adopted over the last decade or so. And we are interested in at least making some minimal updates to our zoning ordinance to align our procedures for replats, property line adjustments, partitions and subdivisions with state laws, which guide us towards using only clear and objective standards for approving residential development, and using processes that are not discretionary and that are more streamlined. And so currently, for example, for partitions and subdivisions, those are planning commission hearings with a hearing, planning commission decisions with a hearing. And that's somewhat unique in Oregon that we still do that. And we're contemplating in this update, changing those procedures to be a type 2 administrative decision that would still include public notice to neighboring property owners, public notice, issued in the newspaper, for example, and an opportunity for people to submit written comments. There would still be a staff report, and the staff report would include a staff decision on the application. And then that decision would be publicly noticed and there would be appeal opportunities. But we're contemplating moving those decisions to the staff level. And so that's the extent of the topics that we're thinking about addressing here. And we're planning on having a planning commission work session in September. And then I would say the rest of the timeline, this was intended a planning commission hearing as early as October 8th. I don't think that we will actually have a planning commission hearing by October 8th, but that was, conceivable, but probably a little bit slower than that. And as always, any amendment to the Gearhart zoning ordinance is ultimately a city council decision following hearings with the planning commission and the city council. And so we'll plan to keep you updated on the kind of input that we're getting from planning commissioners and from the public at planning commission meetings, so that by the time any of these updates get to you, they won't feel like new information will be our goal. I'm going to leave it at that, and I'm happy to answer any questions that you might have.
Any questions for Garrett?
Pretty quick, yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And Jessica Newell, talk to us about LED street lights.
Straight here. I didn't have sharing.
Okay, Miss Christie can set you up with that. She's probably looking on it right now.
Great. Hi, everyone. While Christy's doing that, I would just say how grateful I am to the fire department here for managing that small fire that we had out on the highway. We are seeing across the Pacific Core service territory just incredible wildfire situations. And so we're just really grateful that here in Clatsop County and on the coast, we are in a good place. So knock on wood that we continue to stay in that space. All right. You can look at that, but I also have some updated numbers that you can just make some notes on that. I will send out an updated presentation. Part of the reason why the presentation is not updated is the Energy Trust of Oregon just recently, this past week, announced some new incentives, so they were not able to make it into the presentation fully. So I will go through those in my presentation. So what I'm going to go through today is what the city of Gearhart has on as an opportunity to upgrade all of the lighting within the city to LED. This is the street lighting. So I'll talk through the benefits of converting your existing street lighting to LED, why and how LED conversion reduces costs, improves public safety, and supports Gearhart's sustainability, financial, and community goals. And then the goal is to move this forward towards approval, ideally by September 21st of this year, to take advantage of those new Energy Trust of Oregon incentives. So in the city of Gearhart, you have, and this is some of the updated numbers, you have 147 streetlights. These are owned and maintained by Pacific Core. Pacific Core is Pacific Power's parent company. This is intended to allow you to streamline maintenance, standardize equipment, and ensure reliable, consistent operation on power poles, gives you predictable rates, utilizes the existing electrical infrastructure to hang lights on so you don't have to put your own poles, and leverages a skilled and qualified workforce in our line crew. So that's why we own and operate them. And you have them as right now. There's the streetlights are operated in Oregon under a tariff Schedule 51. There's two different aspects of Schedule 51. There's one type of Schedule 51 rate, and this is the per kilowatt hour rate that the city is charged for. When streetlights are utility funded, so funded by Pacific Core, which is where they're at right now, you're under a rate schedule called the utility funded schedule. When you move to LED, you move to a customer funded schedule. So basically the city of Gearhart pays to upgrade all the lights to LED, and you move on to this new lower rate schedule. So this is a less per kilowatt hour rate for the electricity used to power those LEDs. So you'll both benefit from the lower per kilowatt hour rate, as well as the less electrical usage that's required by LEDs. So that is one of the key reasons why we are encouraging municipalities to move to this, because you'll benefit from that. The estimated annual rate and usage savings, this is updated from your slides based on the audit that we just recently did. With the new number of lights, the estimated savings is $3,983.04. That's just what we estimate annually through both the reduced rate schedule and the reduced required usage by these lights that the city would save per year. Yes. And I have a summary of these notes too. These are just some of the benefits. I won't go through them in detail for time, but you can certainly review them. Public safety, one of the things that comes up with LEDs is that high pressure sodium and some of the older forms of lights that you see out in the community, they don't show color as much. LED shows color. So you imagine you're a public safety person and you're trying to stop a car and it's dark out, you can't really see what, maybe that car's brown or red. LEDs can help with some of that visibility and just increase visibility within the public safety areas, traffic and pedestrian safety. Also just some of the light pollution goals on the coast that we're seeing around dark sky, LED can help the city accomplish that. So there's two types of LED light structures. One is post top. You see this is decorative lighting in some of the communities. Other is, I'm realizing that this isn't moving forward.
F5.
No, I don't know what's going on. I apologize. I did not realize that wasn't moving. It's showing on my screen. I'm not sure.
Interesting. You may want to disconnect and reconnect.
Oh, there you go. We caught up.
All right,
And then
well, we just won't go live.
You go to slideshow up top. Also.
There we go. So post top lights on the left, the decorative lighting, and then the LED lighting is on the right. And LED lighting is a little bit different in that we categorize it by level. So level 1 through level 6, level 6 being the brightest. So what we do when we go into a city and propose a street light conversion, they look at all of the existing, and this is a new slide, it will come out in the deck afterwards, but they look at all the existing lighting within the city. Our determination is that the city is the one who has designed the lighting within the community. And so we go in and we do a like for like replacement proposal. So if it is a high pressure sodium 70 watt, we will recommend it move to a level 1 LED. And so this chart just shows all the different levels. This is something that we put in the proposal, but this is really at the city's discretion. So this is also an opportunity for you to look at all of the lighting within the city and say, what do we want? What do we think? Do we need to update any of this based on the growth within the community, based on more highway traffic, based on public safety areas of concern, that sort of thing. So the reality is eventually all these lights will be LED because we will go in and when a light burns out and needs a new head replacement, we're replacing with LED. That is the company policy. So eventually over time, LEDs will become what everybody has. The goal by Energy Trust of Oregon and putting the incentives together and Pacific Core is that we're trying to move municipalities faster along that curve for a variety of reasons, sustainability, cost savings, grid support, all of those. So this here on the map, this is a little bit updated from your slides because we did do some inventory. These are all the existing LEDs within the city of Gearhart right now. And you can see them color coded by level. So you'll note here, yellow and orange along the highway. Those are your level 4s and 5s that, for high visibility. The level 1s, 2s, 3s, those are lower, residential, that kind of aspect. Then what we're suggesting we're not suggesting the like for like proposal for moving to the new LEDs. This is the new mapping. So this just gives you a picture of what it looks like. And so you'll see some level 5s here at the intersection of Pacific Way. So opportunity for the city to just really review where the lighting is. Some municipalities decide we're fine, we'll just move forward with a like for like proposal, but it's your city, you're designing it, this is an opportunity for you to take a look at that and have your public works and city departments to look at that overall.
Is that a staff decision or?
Yes, we do not make any determination on lighting other than the like for like. So then that is 100% the city's determination, however the city wants to do that. Staff, council, most often it's the staff. What we run, public works tends to be the ones who manage that. They consult with public safety if they determine, but yeah.
Are you allowed to tell us Eddie, are there any cities in Clatsop County that have already gone through a complete?
Yeah, so the city
Upgrade
of
that
Cannon
we could go
Beach
take a look at?
has, yeah, city of Cannon Beach has, and I have a council presentation that you can also view on the city seaside, but we are making this proposal, especially with the new ETO incentives, that we anticipate that this will be.
But has Cannon Beach
They're
completed
done, yeah,
this?
they can get.
So
last
if
year.
we went down there and looked at it, we would have an idea of what you're talking about visual.
Yeah, and you can, I mean, I can give you, you have I'll give you all the addresses of all these existing LEDs. You can go look at them and see what, see what they're like as well. So the cost to convert to LED is $25,894. That's what the city would, that's the top line cost of what it would cost for the city to convert all of the lights to LED. Yeah, there's some updated, when we went through and audited the numbers, we realized that there were some additional lights that have been moved to LED that we took off of the previous quote. Right now, Energy Trust of Oregon this past week has put an additional bonus incentive of $80 per fixture on top of their existing incentives. Energy Trust of Oregon, if you're not familiar with it, is the state of Oregon's kind of nonprofit independent agency that manages all in the energy efficiency programs. So ultimately, ratepayers within the city are already paying for energy trust. You might as well get some of this money back and invest it back into the community, because this is a line item on everybody's bill, whether you're commercial, residential. And so it's a great opportunity to take advantage of some of those incentives. So the net estimated installed cost after those two Energy Trust of Oregon incentives is $4,479 for the city to upgrade all of its street lighting to LEDs, which if it's contracted by the 21st of September. So really incredible opportunity to take advantage of this. And then with the estimated annual energy savings, approximately $39.83, it's about a year payoff for that investment. So certainly something to consider. Why proceed now? Obviously, the Energy Trust of Oregon incentives are pretty incredible at this present moment. And ultimately, the city will eventually move to all LED organically. This is your opportunity to kind of tackle both of those things, the Energy Trust incentives and moving on to that schedule, that customer funded rate schedule. LED does support dark skies. I know that's important to some community members. Dark sky lighting is, the light fixtures themselves support more directionality in the lighting. We also move forward with doing all 3,000 K lighting. So dark sky, all of the lighting that we would be looking at doing in Gearhart would be 3,000 K, and that's dark sky compliant through the Dark Skies Society, just so you're aware. There is the opportunity to do 4,000 K lighting, but most coastal cities we're seeing do the 3,000. Some folks ask us about shielding. So there is, when an LED light is installed, and this is part of the reason to look at your levels within your community, some people say, oh, it's so much brighter. And it's definitely a color difference. I think LEDs have gotten a lot better over time, and the new generation of LEDs, people are finding that they're much, especially at the 3,000 K level, are much more, people that are more sensitive to lighting are having an easier time with them. But we do offer shielding. Shielding is at the discretion of the city and the city alone. The city has the opportunity to say, okay, well, we think this new light is maybe causing too much brightness in this resident's home, or we're getting a lot of complaints in this one particular area. Can we look at shielding? It's at the city's discretion and the city's cost to install shielding. We recommend that if there is a shielding, we recommend that cities wait about 6 months to start. They can collect the data, but we recommend that you wait until about 6 months after the LED conversion is in place to start really pushing for the shielding with Pacific Port, mostly because once the light, people get used to the light, they manage things just evolve over time. And we've seen that people have kind of that shock value. They hear that we're doing this LED conversion, so they're very sensitive to it. And then over time, communities tend to just naturalize into the new light, and the lights become just part of the kind of operating.
But doesn't that mean that you guys have to come back and change things?
Well, it would mean that we would have to install one of these shields. We would not change the level of the lighting unless the city determined that, and that would be at the cost to the city. But we would come in and you can see these little shields here, they're these little black things. And so they just create a little bit more directionality for the lighting. And we've been downward, or, you know, you can put it on one side of the light, so it's not going into, you know, say here on Pacific Way, you have a mix of residential and busy street, you may want to think about some, you know, something like that. That's really at the discretion of the city. So you'll probably want to have a web, you know, what we've seen, like if you go to the City of Cannon Beach's website, they have information about their LED project and dark skies and how they navigated that. Community engagement is important, not to create alarm around the LED conversion, but to give yourselves an opportunity to allow people to reach out to you and to inform, to engage. So we do encourage people to, we do encourage municipalities to inform residents as to why and what to expect. And then again, encourage that 3 to 6 month grace period to allow the community to adjust to new lighting.
How long does it take to change everything over?
Well, for the city, they can do about 200 lights in a week. So it's, I mean, it could go quickly depending on what, you know, depending on the weather conditions and all of the different aspects of things. Yeah.
So what is the community usually like? I have a family member who has been bothered by the street light across the street from us for 20 years.
Yeah.
And like, what are they gonna say when it changes to LED across the street, coming in our bedroom windows?
Well, eventually it will change to LED anyways, because when that street light goes out, it will be replaced with, most likely with an LED.
Right.
So I don't know what they will say. They may still not like the street light. Some people just don't like street lights. Some people like dark skies. The reality is, and we try and stress this with municipalities, street lighting is for public safety and for visibility. And so if you have a street light that is causing a nuisance in a community and you're aware of it, this is a good time to address the levels and look at some of those problem areas. Maybe you're aware of them, maybe there's been traffic changes, but also to just reinforce to the city and citizens why street lighting exists. You know, I think that in support of public safety and support of visibility for, you know, our residents to navigate the streets. I know I walk, you know, around the golf course and I'm quite surprised sometimes how dark it is, you know, and we've got more and more people here. And so you think about people driving along with the bike path and, you know, thinking about some of those things. These are considerations that the city takes in. So to your question, I can't answer whether they will like the light or not like the light. Probably not like the light, probably not like the LED conversion. However, that's the topic.
But isn't that where the shielding?
For the shielding could come in, for certainly. And again, that's where you would encourage the citizen to reach out to the city. The city would log that in some capacity. The city would go out, probably Public Works, evaluate the situation. Either agree, yes, this light, it needs to be shielded, or you know, or work with the citizen to try and manage through that challenge.
Do you have a ballpark figure on how much the cost of a shield would increase the project?
So the shielding typically is like piecemeal. So we'll get, you know, in Cannon Beach, we'll get a call every once in a while to go install a shield. And that's why we really encourage municipalities to do that 3 to 6 month grace period, just to allow people to kind of vent their feelings. You collect the data, you start to see where maybe there's some pockets of commonality, of concern, and then you start to, you know, that's why the city can say, okay, we want to start moving forward with that. We had a shielding request that came in, and so it's both the shield and labor, anywhere between $200 and $500. So they're not small, you know, it's not small, you know, it's not insignificant because you are paying for alignment to come out and install that. So I think it does reinforce the need to be thoughtful in that process. Yeah, so timeline, confirm the decision to move forward again by September 21st is when those ETO incentives, the extra $80 per fixture would expire. It takes about 10 weeks to get the materials, and then we would convert to approximately 200 fixtures a week. This is a contract crew that we would bring in to do this work, so it doesn't take away from existing utility work in the community supporting installations and other work. We do ask the city for that the required permitting is comped to the contracts, otherwise it would just be tacked onto the cost of the project. And we ask for a staging site within the city, locked and secure location with dumpsters and restrooms. Because if there's not a lot of lighting within this project, we'll figure out what that looks like.
So if you knew ahead of time that, for instance, that particular street light, the people around there would like some shielding, could that be rolled into the initial, put the light up and put the shield on it right away to save some costs, or?
It couldn't be rolled into this project because this project is separate with ETO, with Energy Trust of Oregon. So you're paying Pacific Core, you're getting the project done, then ETO reimburses the city. However, you could start, I would work with Chad and his team to start really like putting together a list of where you think some of those challenge areas are, but I would also look at that light and look at the high pressure, you know, look at the level of it, going back to this, you know, and this is just a tool I built in Copilot, but you could look at this and say, okay, where is that? Okay, let's say it's, you know, this, one of these blue ones. You say, okay, it's a level 2. Well, maybe what if that light had actually been a level 4 yellow light, and all of a sudden you start to realize, wow, we may have too much lighting in that light fixture. Maybe we drop it down to a level 1 or a level 2. Just recognize there are public safety and liability concerns when you start to lower levels of visibility for things. So yes, to your point, Counselor, you could start to build kind of that pre-shielding expectation list, but again, I would encourage you to look at that 3 to 6 month grace period and allow this, you know, the city to collect some data and then come back potentially with a shielding recommendation, or just start to move through it organically, like some of the other municipalities.
Is the ongoing cost of the lights different for level 2 versus level 6? It's all the same cost.
Well, that's just, yes, there's a different cost for the different level of light, but it doesn't, but you're paying that already when we change out the light. So if an LED goes out, which they do not, then that's not a typical. So say a high pressure sodium light goes out here, we're gonna replace that with an LED at the same light level, and that will be a cost.
No, that's not what I'm talking about. So, once we get everything changed over.
Oh, I see what you're saying.
If we changed, say we took, I don't know, 10 of the level 5 lights that had to be changed over.
Yeah.
And we changed them to the level 2.
Yeah.
Does that save us money?
Yes, potentially.
Okay.
Because, yeah, Chad has a spreadsheet of all of the different costs of the different levels, and I'll make sure that he has the updated one based on the audit. So there are different costs to the different levels of lights that's part of this, the changes. I would also point out that once the project's done, if you do decide to say you move forward and then you do decide, oh, we want to move that level 3 to a level 2, you would pay for that light, but not with the ETO incentives. So there would, you know, you don't have, so that's part of the reason why I encourage cities, you know, and I recognize we're in a tighter timeline, but luckily you don't have a lot of lights, and I certainly can provide this tool that looks at all the lighting in the city. And it is to be a little bit, you know, is to just make sure that this is where you want to be.
So on that one there, like this is on 3rd Street, there's 2 purpley looking ones. Are those level 1s?
So that's level ones, yes.
Those are level ones.
Yes, so the purple here, level one, these down third are level one, there's a level one here. The blues are level two, Gearhart's mostly blue level two. You have a couple yellow level threes at major intersections.
Right.
Not surprising at all where the placement of those is. But you've got mostly level twos.
And this is, level two is the same if you're talking about sodium, whatever, the old fashioned.
High pressure sodium?
Yeah, I mean, is the color equivalent?
Is the color, yeah, so it's like for like, so it'd be the same kind of lumen equivalent, yeah. Yeah.
Do we have addresses where there already are LED lights?
Yes, so
That's-
that's this here, the existing LEDs. I will get you all of those addresses. So this is, yeah, and so you'll have a, what, that?
That's not address.
No, I, well,
Yeah.
so if I,
That was my
this map is interactive on my other computer screens. You can actually click on every single light and look at what the address is, what the level is. So, but I can get you a spreadsheet of all the levels. That's what I did to feed into this.
Great, thank you.
And gray is a level, oh. pole.
Gray is the pole top decorative
Got it.
lighting.
So in the reserve, they've got you.
Yeah, yeah.
So
Okay,
in relationship to that.
Yeah.
Okay, so basically we're only going up to six.
Yeah.
600 or 6,000.
No, so that's the color scale that talks about the color of the lights. So that's the 3000 K. That's not the level of intensity light, that's the color scale. So that is one of the questions that people talk about with LED is they say, oh, it's more blue, not as warm. And so so this is to show you that the 3000 K light is more on the warm side than cool side of LED. So the lights we're proposing are on the warm side. That doesn't talk about color, the brightness.
So basically we would be changing most of them out to the 3,000 level.
Yes, yes. 3000 level color, but different levels of brightness.
Okay.
Does that make sense?
yeah,
I know.
okay.
So in plain English, what I'm getting from you is the same level of brightness that we already have. And then the color will be just like on your Christmas tree, you choose either white lights or warm lights, and we would be going towards warm lights.
Great analogy.
Or maybe a down step in the brightness,
Well, that would be up to us.
right?
Yeah,
It depends on the neighborhood. Some people have requested more light and we've had them installed. Some people have requested shielding.
I
and we've
didn't
had that
know we had a
installed.
complaint system for this.
I'm glad that this is getting out. But I think that one of the things it's going to do is it's going to give a consistency to Gearhart, give us the latest technology, give us a good color of light as well, and that we can make some adjustments as needed, and I think they'll be minimal. Pacific Power's always been great to work with.
The way I see it, we're gonna have to do it sooner or later. If we do it sooner, we have a significant cost savings. If we do it later, it's gonna cost us more in the long run.
So would we put this on the agenda for September, new business?
We would have to.
Not necessarily, this kind of expense could be rolled through our budget as it is now. If the city council gives us a thumbs up, I'll work with Pacific Power and then we'll get the
That's
job
true.
done. This isn't, this is something to keep you informed and to give you an opportunity to ask questions and to give me consensus on what you'd like me to work with Pacific Power and if you'd like me to work forward or work with them moving forward.
Can we put this on the agenda for our work session, just like 5 minutes to talk about this? Because I have a suggestion about how we could pay for that. Without going. over
What
our
was the
budget.
date that?
25th.
I think it should go on the
Of September.
September agenda.
My question is, I mean, can we put this out to citizens and see if we get any feedback about lights that bother them?
Well, it'll be out there by the time we gavel down. Or 5 minutes later.
I think, as Jessica suggested, we're not going to know because the lights are going to change a little bit. And it could make some of the situations even a little bit better for them.
The only thing is, can I just reiterate what you've said, just so that I make sure I understand? You are planning, this plan includes replacing 152 lights.
Yeah,
Right.
147 with the
All
new
on-
numbers, yeah.
Right, all on this sheet.
Yeah.
And the total cost to the city is the only check we have to write is 4,600.
Well, you would write the top line check, the 25,000 check, and then you would be reimbursed, you would receive a check from ETO, from Energy Trust for those 2 additional.
Okay, so it's a rebate.
It's a rebate program.
How long does it take for that rebate to come?
I'll just find out.
And what you're saying is that it doesn't include shielding, so any shielding that we currently have, no shielding will be on it when they're installed.
Correct.
Okay, and,
Because, and I'll just point out one thing, the directionality of LED lighting versus the round bottom high pressure sodium is different. So you will have a more downward focused light with LED versus high pressure sodium, which disperses outward. So the existing shielding may not be necessary with a new light directionality.
and you're saying that based on this, our current rates, switching as you projected, not with getting input or changing lights to a 4 to a 6 to a 2, whatever, no shielding, is going to save us money.
Yes.
Okay. Just wanted to.
From the time we pay it off, then we start to reap some savings.
Right,
Yeah.
but it doesn't include any shielding and it doesn't include changing any lights. So anything that happens impacts the rates.
Well, it does change the lights from sodium to,
I think you're talking about the levels.
Right,
Yeah.
so like if you decide this needs to be brighter, or this doesn't need to be brighter, or this community complains a lot because they're at a level 6 and now we're moving them to a, you know.
I know, I anticipate that would be.
Right,
there would be a period of time where we could submit our detailed map with, you know, we want to go up 2 levels here and down 2 on all these.
The goal is that we would want to get that done by the 21st. That is the timeline of this.
21st of August.
September. So,
That you would want, like a circle around the ones that we want.
yes, exactly.
blue.
Yeah, it would be basically Chad resubmit, you know, making notes on the spreadsheet that we submit to him with the levels on it and taking any input about based on the mapping and based on the addresses.
How's this going at Candy Beach so far?
Yeah.
No real issues?
No.
No real complaints?
No, I mean, the city's established a good process and they navigate that with our team and so.
Anything that they did in their process that you might want to consider?
I think, you know, having clarity about it, making sure that you have a good process internally for fielding calls and handling customer, you know, constituent feedback and, you know, having that clarity of that process of saying, you know, we decided to do this, the council decided to do this for these reasons, fiscal, sustainability, long-term benefit to the city. However, we recognize, you know, that change can be hard for people. And so we want to have an opportunity for people to voice what the impact is, if any, and then we'll evaluate that after 6-month time based on the amount of feedback and the type of feedback that we're getting. That's what we're seeing across municipalities working really well, because it just takes time for people sometimes to absorb change.
The other thing you mentioned is that we would waive permitting, but we don't control electrical, the county controls electrical. How does that
It'd
impact
be
us?
any city permits required. So I don't think there are any that we navigate.
No, the only issue we might have is finding you locked storage for
Right,
your
yeah.
vehicles and things.
And so we'll talk through that. Because we face that.
So Chad, do you want us to make a motion tonight, or are you comfortable putting this on the September agenda for a formal vote?
Well, if like December 21st, we need to tell them what level lights every community wants. I think we gotta do it sooner rather than later.
To answer your question, Glenn, I would recommend that I mean, personally, you know, city administrator, I would recommend that we move forward with this project. This is going to help us in a lot of ways, update the system, give us some consistency. It is gonna create a few problems here and there, and then we can address those, you know, with a little bit of delay in time, you know, for people to kind of understand that, you know, some of these changes just take some time to sink in. There's going to be an expense occasionally where we may have to change out a light to a lower or a higher, if you will, wattage, you know, for more light. I do like the dark sky aspect of this. I think that that's important to Gearhart, and it is within our zone code, that downward cast lights are required. And this will accomplish that and maybe even a little bit better than the bulb on the bottom of the sodium pressure lights. But it's not going to be just $4,000 expense because we're going to make some changes, and the lights are fairly expensive. If we were to just do this on a one-off basis without these incentives, what would the cost be per light? Okay, to make a change, I think it's around $500 or $600, somewhere near there, to make that change out. So there might be a few of those as well, and that we would absorb without the incentives.
Well,
We do have a road district budget that I would recommend that we likely put that in there. You know, because it
In the
says,
road budget,
correct. That's what I would suggest.
do we want feedback from the police and public works or?
I don't think it's going to
That would
change
be during
substantially,
the planning.
you know, and we'll work with them, and if we have an issue, we'll have to make a change out, but I don't know if there's so much advanced work we can do. If we were to identify an area that does not have a light, and then we want to put in a light, that's gonna be more along the lines of more than a few $1,000s, because then you have to install a pole as well, and then get the electrical there. And I have some experience in that, here in town. In the few years that I've been here and we've replaced a few lights, we have installed, I think in my time, 2 or 3 shields that have helped people out. And bulb replacement. So it's been, you know, when one goes bad, we just report it and it gets fixed. That is going to be on Pacific Power stuff, if I'm correct. But something goes out, you repair it.
Maintenance is part of the existing agreement.
So I think the change is going to be good, community, but that's how you'd like to move forward. If you want us to do a detailed survey and start getting out there, this is going to take some time, money, and energy. If you want to leave it out there for some people to comment, then we're going to be changing light colors and shades and stuff quite a bit, and it's going to take a little bit more time.
And I don't think the general public actually understands what the difference in the, you know, in the warmth of the light or the depth of the light or whatever it is.
I think generally it's going to be better than what we have.
I do want to just reiterate that I think it's really important that the city is the one that determines the light. If you're doing it on behalf of your public safety, your own knowledge of transportation systems, your own knowledge of what the traffic patterns are, everything within the city, I hate to go down this path, but if something were to happen at an intersection and you took all this community feedback that the lights were too bright, you didn't have the lights up and there was an accident, you start to move into those sorts of conversations around the purpose of lighting. And so really, I think it's important to get community feedback, but also just keep in mind your lighting was designed for a purpose. It exists in the way that it is hopefully thoughtfully designed over time for the intersections that you have, for the reason, that I assume that there was some sort of lighting designer, originally who's, laid things out, and the city has evolved that over time. But that really should be the city's determination based on your expertise. I will also answer Councilor about the ETO incentives 4 to 6 weeks after the project is completed and audited by ETO that it has been installed is when the check is cut.
So I just want to give you an example from my neighbor. I have a very lived-in neighborhood, there's a lot of occupied homes. And I was told by a lady who has lived there much longer than I have, that we got street lights near my house because she called and asked for street lights to be put in.
And that happens.
They drive me nuts. I don't like them. Sorry.
And I think that's part of that's the nature. Street lighting is, especially now with dark sky, street lighting can be controversial within the community. However, you think about public safety and visibility.
Home burglars hate them also.
Yeah. And so it's definitely gonna be something that I think that's, the city administration works through, even now, Chad just mentioned, you're getting requests for streetlights and the city's making a determination, and Chad, I don't know how you go about that, but to install new lighting. Yeah, and I can appreciate that.
Chad, wouldn't we want at least, police and fire to come to us and say, well, we've noticed this area that it would help us if we had, blah, 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 light installed or uplighted or, whatever. How bright it is.
Yeah, I think with the existing lights, that would be pretty doable. If we were gonna get into, let's put in more lights, we're looking at between $5,000 and $10,000 per light.
I'm just saying, they're the ones that have to deal with this. They're the ones that have to work at night, so.
So one thing I have done, and I'm more than happy to do it because I am here local, is we're going through this with the city of Seaside right now. I'm happy to sit down with Chad and the team, public safety team, walk through that map. Again, I will, we don't make the recommendations at Pacific for what, lighting level, but I'm certainly happy to explain the process, in between when you make the final contract with the city and get that input. Or, I can certainly equip Chad with the spreadsheet and how to create this tool or replicate this tool so you can visibly, see it visually. So I think that's helpful. Happy to be a resource as you navigate this.
I would include the fire escapes.
Yep, sure. I mean, our fire chief is there, so he's listening to all this. But I mean, he probably would like to look at the map and take the time to think about it and maybe notice, at night, get input from your officers about, oh, this place is kind of dark. It might benefit from a, higher level of lighting. I don't know. I don't do your job, so I'm just imagining.
I think our goal tonight is just to say yay or nay, and then the planning can happen some other time.
Counselor Devereaux, would you like to make a motion?
Make a motion, we accept this.
I'll second.
Is there any further discussion?
I would like to say something.
Well, yeah.
Who's here?
I'm sorry, I raised my hand some time ago and I'm just waiting to be noticed.
Sorry, Carrie.
I called your name several times, so we didn't know you were there.
That's all right. It took me quite a while to figure out how to get on. Hey, so what I want to say is this is a great opportunity for the city to save money in the long run. And as far as working out the light's too bright, the light shines in the room, we can work around that. But if we have a deadline of September 21st, I think telling Jessica that we want to go ahead is the way to go, because and I know there's already a motion and a second. I just want to put my 2 cents in. This is money saving and better for the environment. So that's what I would like to say right now.
Any further discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed?
Thank you, Jeff.
Thank you, Jessica. Can we take a 5-minute break?
Yeah, can you?
3-minute break.
And just before we go on that break, also, I want to let you know that we do work closely with Jessica and her coworkers, her and her predecessor. Call us, if there are storms, all sorts of things. Fantastic.
Thank you. Yeah, you guys are doing a phenomenal job.
Yeah, I just wanted her, if I put out anything, like, media wise, or blog, I wanted her to kind of check out fact. or something.
You or her,
Just to make sure I.
Stop running.
Collecting signatures. So Pete.
He knows. He's going to get out of the mindset.
Okay.
Hopefully they have a good food. Where is their parks? But that is. That's, you know, the camera off the, worry about their lives.
Oh, it's out there now, so.
But not.
Yes.
Jen.
Good to see you. Stop by one of these days.
Thank you.
Well,
Yeah, for person's home.
and
Dana.
Each shine the.
rainy season.
So, I might 1%. Maybe I.
And you're definitely.
Yeah, the boom area.
I've been doing my time.
These two lights are supposed to be a little bit better. I still have to go.
Well, that's pretty much it.
Yeah, I don't think that if you've got a bowl that's on to it, it's hard. It's fine, but so. But, if we get close, we're gonna be something.
Yeah.
Adjust our primary residence.
So
Over there.
that-
So it's all possible, you know. I'm still gonna be around, I'm still gonna be in the house. You'll have ours. I'll probably do that. She wants to be a lot. We're minutes.
Yeah, thank you. I get to our discussion, I think a little bit, it's gonna take longer.
Last day, I went through the dumpsters.
Thank you for your question.
Baby transit. I wasn't clear on how plans and before they weren't very well lit. The homeless were shut down, rolling in the dumpster, getting cans, whatnot. It was a pretty dangerous place, so we have to really keep right lives. And it's kind of a problem. But I have to shut my, I'm currently in the bedroom, which is the lights and the shines, yeah, in the bedroom. But I'm going out. Yes, you can't bitch. One device, so I can say, the lights that are burning. Oh, then they said, okay, you can bring her in.
That's my sister, yeah. Oh, okay.
So
Look at that. She was long there.
Maybe it already is.
Animals.
One minute.
Yelling, a lot of them.
Judy. Judy. I don't think I'm dating.
No, you're mine, my duty.
I promise I'll wind my.
Oh, it just gives them more, babies is my driveway is hammer yet.
We'll check the chat on the way back, but I don't think.
Thank you.
Will be more than that.
Well, first.
So that was like a good attitude first for.
I'm sorry, make it quick.
Just got on that.
Mhm.
So, take that.
Yeah.
I'm looking at all my. Each.
Sure is.
Right.
Officer is going there. That's what it is. You should have been telling. Small, same.
We're ready when you
We're gonna reconvene. We have come in the agenda to the public communications, written and oral. At this time, we will invite anyone wishing to address the city council concerning items of interest not on the agenda may do so at this time. All remarks will be limited to 5 minutes per person. Requests to comment electronically or via must be submitted by email to the city recorder at info@cityofgearhart.com no later than 4 p.m. on the day of the meeting. In-person attendees wishing to speak are required to sign in prior to the meeting. Do we have anyone electronically request? Not that I know of. Okay. We have one person, Deanna Mansell. Do you want to state your name and your address, please?
Yes, thank you. Deanna Mansell, 2945 Highway 101. I'd like to just talk about the dune mowing. I'm a little bit concerned about what I've seen down there for the last 5 years. When you get a brush hog down in the dunes, the blade gets down in the soil. It stirs up all the Scotch broom seed pods that have laid there dormant. The last time that oceanfront dunes got mowed, the guy left the Scotch broom sticking out of the ground 5 inches. Now, a couple of years ago, down there at the very end of Mechanical Spit, Sam and I walked down there after the yard maintenance people came out there. Every one of those Scotch broom stalks were several inches above the ground. Well, when I walked down there the last month, all those stalks resprouted. You did not get rid of the problem when you're taking care of it that way. The recommended way of getting rid of Scotch broom is you manually remove it when the plant is in full bloom in the spring. All the energy of the plant is in the greenery. You go in and with grass clippers, you cut down at the surface, or you even cut down lower below the ground, and then you pile the Scotch broom plant in a big pile, and that Scotch broom will naturally die on its own. Well, what we've got down there now is a huge mess, and I was really rather unhappy about what I saw. So what I was gonna suggest that we have a group of volunteers, maybe even enlist the help of North Coast Land Conservancy, and we have a group of volunteers who will manually go in there and remove the Scotch broom and the blackberries, and do it naturally. Because what we've done now, since we passed this beaches and dune ordinance in 2018, and we started the dune mowing, all we have done is increased the amount of Scotch broom in the area. It's a disaster. And I walk down there and I'm looking at all these roads down there in the city park. I'm going, what is this? This is a city park. The oceanfront property owners really should not be driving all over a city park. It was very upsetting. So I would like you guys to consider that Stuart Schultz and I were talking about it, and he goes, you know, restoration would be a great project for this community to do. That you really need to consider that rather than having this destruction down in the dunes. I mean, the European beach grass, it holds the dunes, you know, and all you're doing with the mowing is you're setting yourself up for beach erosion. And with sea level rise, I don't think that's really very smart. And most of us, when we walk down there, we like to see the European beach grass blowing in the breeze. I don't like to see the grass mowed almost to the ground. You know, to me, that is ugly. We're not trying to make a golf course down there. We want to add to most people's experience. Sometimes, you know, if you guys want to consider that, you know, I'd be happy to work with you guys to see if we can come up with a better solution for what's going on down there. Is that my?
A little bit over, but.
Oh, I'm sorry.
That's okay.
I'm sorry. I had another issue though, that was at the end of your agenda packet, and it regarded 13th Street. Did you guys get that?
Yes, we did.
Very, very briefly. I was working with Adam Niles, the Clatsop County cartographer, and on 13th Street, he looked at all the documents that you had seen last month, and we found that there were some issues down there that maybe the council would like to take up and study. At the very end of 13th Street, he found that there was a strip of land that was 88 feet by 90 feet that had no apparent owner to it. Barney Lucas got that piece of land in 1939, but since that time, there has not been any sort of chain of title, so we don't know who owns that land. He also found that that pedestrian path to the beach doesn't have any apparent ownership. He's gone through all the deeds. And so he suggested that the title insurance company do a full-on historical research, the deeds on that property to see who owns it. Or if you don't have Tycor do it, you'd have to hire a surveyor. But I think the title insurance company has more records that can be accessed, but we're kind of, like, I don't know who owns that land, but it might be important for the city of Gearhart to know who owns that, because if that pedestrian path is actually owned by the state of Oregon, I mean, would that not be nice to know? Because we don't have a clue. So it's something for you guys to consider. So that's all I've got to say.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Anyone else wish to speak who's in the audience?
But I didn't put my name down.
I know, but this is Gearhart, Sarah.
Okay.
State your name and where you live.
Sarah Nebaker, I live at 750 G Street. Thank you to the city for handling as best as they could the 4th of July. That was really intense, even on my street. My family came, a lot of grandchildren, and they all came and stayed with me. And in addition, we housed 11 teenagers. Didn't know they were coming, but they would have been on the street. There were kids sleeping in their cars all over. One of my grandsons told me that he had gone down because he had been told through Snapchat, that's how this goes out. He lives in Tigard. That Gearhart was the place where everybody should come, all the kids. He said there were drugs. I asked, were there drugs? Was there alcohol? Mm-hmm. Illegal fireworks? Mm-hmm. Yeah, and they were throwing them at each other. I didn't know about throwing them at police. And there were guns. That's the scariest of all. Kids whose brains aren't even fully developed. I don't know what the city can do in the future. Maybe plea on social media, I don't know. But I think considering what all was going on, I think the city handled it beautifully. It's a wonder there wasn't more injuries, maybe fatalities.
And so they do need to hear that, because they hear a lot that, you know, what they're doing isn't good enough, and it's important to also let them know, but we do recognize what you're doing, so.
Yeah, well, even my grandson said that, you know, the police were so outnumbered. So they handled it as well as they possibly could.
Thank you. Thank you so much for speaking up.
Thank you. Thank you. Okay, we have written correspondence. Let's see, in our packet was something from Mr. Maury, or maybe his lawyer, his planner, and then an email from him, and one back from Chad, and his planner, and who goes from? One from Deanna Mansell. This is the one she was just talking to us about the 13th Street, or no, this is, I'm sorry, this is about, this is about the Beaches and Dunes overlay and the Nicanicum estuary. Trying to get the right words here. And then one from Jim Whittemore about short-term rental. And Kathy Wolfert on short-term rental, or I misspeak. It's the transient lodging tax. And finally, one from Catherine Schroeder, same subject. On the late correspondence, we have a letter from Acuity saying they're going to do the audit soon, and we all have a survey to complete and get back to them in the next several days, please. Also, another one from Deanna himself. This one is the extra information on the 13th Street. Another one from Deanna Mansell, again on the 13th Street. Okay, any comments on any of those?
Yeah. Just have a question, the 13th, or, sorry. Bob Morey's, question about the parking up there, is that not a planning commission?
No, not even there yet. That stemmed from, I think, a conversation that Mr. Maury had with the adjacent property owner about, and the adjacent property owner was talking about some of his plans that he was thinking about. So then Bob Maury submitted that document We are in the middle of that process, working with that owner and working with our codes. So no determination has been made yet. There are some parking issues that we're working through with them. And I think he highlighted all of our code that's in there that we would typically go through anyway. So it's not, we're not ignoring it. It's something that we're going to be handling and making sure that before they develop that property, that they have everything in place. So we're in that process.
Okay. And moving slowly along, we are under ordinances and resolutions, and we've added to our agenda to approve resolution 1018, a resolution adjusting water rates in the city of Gearhart. I would just ask that whoever makes the motion add to the recommended motion approving resolution 1018 and repeal 1017. I just think it's a little cleaner that way, if you would consider that. Chad, do you want to walk us through this before we?
I'll just read the synopsis if you like. The first paragraph, the Gearhart City Council unanimously approved the increase in water rates at the 10% at the July City Council meeting. When entering the rates into the system, a typo was discovered on the actual resolution document. The 4-inch meter rate should be the 3-inch meter rate. Approving resolution 1018 tonight will repeal 1017 to correct the rate schedule. Also attached is the updated customer information sheet for the water billing statements. And yeah, your method was correct.
So I'll make a motion to repeal 1017 and to approve resolution 1018.
Second.
Is there any discussion? All those in favor say aye. Aye. Mayor?
Aye. Did you get that?
Yes. That's 5 ayes. Motion passes. New business. This is the proposed transient lodging tax increase and related ordinance amendments. And would anyone like to request a comment for this discussion item? You can do so at this time. Just raise your hand. Go ahead.
Paul Tice, I'm the general manager of Gearhart by the Sea. This is my 38th summer there, so I've been there for a little while. And I also know the situation. I've had many meetings with Chad. I know the situation that Gearhart's in. I firsthand have seen Chad and Josh come to our property and save someone's life on a Monday morning, where if it wasn't for them, it would have been tragedy. So I know the importance of that. But I think we need to come up with a way, figure out how to get some more income for the city. Raising the tax from 7%, which the city of Gearhart's always gotten the full 100% of the 7%, never had to split that. That was the 7 we moved into from the county to the city, which is great, but never had, there's no tourism because of that. That's why it was 7%. The increase doesn't bother me as much, but going from 7% to 15% makes our taxes 20%. That's 3% county, almost 2% state. So in the wintertime, that would kill us. And then we have to cut that cost down. I'm not insensitive though to figure out, I have property in Gearhart, but I'm Gearhart yet, so I want to help Gearhart, but we need to figure out other answers. A moderate increase. Yeah, I mean, Astoria's 11%, Canada Beach is like 9%, Seaside's 10% lodging tax. I don't see that, but going to from 7 to 15, that's going to be a tough pill. Right now, our lodging tax gives the city of Gearhart about $180,000 a year. And so I'd like to maybe figure out a way that there could be discussions and come up some plans maybe of if you're going to do that, and there's going to be marketing, how that marketing would work. So maybe some think out of the box, maybe some, so. I appreciate you guys listening to me, that's my comment.
Just a quick question clarification. The county just raised it January from 1% to 3%, right? So that applies to you also anywhere in the county?
Currently, we have 7% city, 3% county, and 1.5% state. That's currently what we're paying, so we'd almost be 20% if we were to go to 15% of the city.
Thank you.
And Astoria's at 12?
I have Astoria at 15.5.
Maybe my information is wrong, I saw.
Well, I got this off of Google, I didn't.
Municipal, okay.
Yeah, and I looked up Canada Beach because it's not on this list that was sent to us in the summer.
Oh, yeah, well, that was.
And it said, again, it's AI, so you gotta take that with a grain of salt. It said 14%. I told Chad that said that, and he said he was gonna check into it.
Yeah,
That was which town?
Canada Beach.
yeah, I have it in my notes, I have it at 9.5, and that might have been one where I called.
That's what I had in mind, yeah. And of course, part of that goes to marketing, right?
That's correct.
So,
Yeah.
It's 9.5.
For Cambridge.
Well, that makes 14, isn't it?
She said it was on it.
Right. You add it all up. So the ones on the list include the county and the state.
So what do we have to do to open it up for discussion, or are we still allowing the public to speak on it?
Well, I just wanted to check if there's anybody out there in the listening area. If they wanna make a comment.
Jim and Lori there. Gary.
I don't see any hands up.
Not this time.
Okay,
Jim
so,
Just raised a hand.
okay,
Whitmore.
Jim Whitmore, go ahead. 3 minutes.
You hear me?
Your name and address.
Yes,
please,
we
Jim.
can. Name and address, please.
Jim Whittemore, 776 North Marion, Gearhart. I can understand where TLT revenue is important for the city. When you look at the numbers, over the last 6 years, transient lodging taxes have gone from 341,000 to a high of 618,000 to, for this last fiscal year, $578,000. It's the second largest income line item in the budget. I do want to correct what somebody said earlier, taxes. I don't think they're 14% in Canada Beach. I believe they're 10% or 9.5% total. So when we're talking about dredging TLTs, we got to break out, as the gentleman, I don't know your name, I'm sorry, but wearing with the sunglasses on his head, clearly stated that we have city, county, and state taxes. More than doubling the tax, I think, is almost usurious. We know we have to pay our fair share. And if this tax were to go up 1 or 2%, I can understand that. That happens as a matter of course, life and budget management. But to double the tax, aren't there other ways to increase the community that provides this taxes, either by increasing the number of short-term rentals? When we first started this, Chad, we go back to the beginning. I think we had 125, then we got down to 110, and then 80, and now we're only at 62 homes. So you're sending a message. Yes, it is to increase operating budget, but are you trying to get rid of short-term rentals? Is that the end game here?
That's the way the ordinance is written over time.
Okay, could you clarify that, please?
That's not being considered in this discussion, no. This
That's
was
not the
simply a
intent of
revenue
this.
issue.
That's not the intent of this.
Yeah.
Okay, so the intent is not to get rid of short-term rentals because it's.
That's the way it was written, she said.
Well,
Somebody
I mean,
just
the way
said
that the ordinance was written back in 2018, that eventually would happen.
Except for R3s.
Except in the R3s, absolutely.
But to clarify, the discussion around increasing the tax has nothing to do with trying to penalize or running them out of account or anything like that.
That hasn't been brought up by any council.
Well, I would certainly say on the record, that's not my intent at all.
Okay, all right, well, I just had to get that on the table because that's how somebody who is a vacation home owner kind of sees it, like you're trying to get rid of us by taxing us out of town. It's hard for me to think that that's something that you would want because of our contribution to the to the entire budget process. But isn't there, shall we say, a more a palatable middle ground instead of going by doubling the tax? What if we were competitive with Cannon Beach and Seaside at 10%?
So is that your suggestion, is that we look at around 10%?
My suggestion is it's clearly evident that you need that this budget needs revenue assistance. There's no question. I'm not saying it shouldn't come from us. We should all contribute to it. But by doubling a tax, the intent is to gouge one very small segment of the community, 62 homeowners. There's over 1,560 homes in Gearhart. We counted our vacation, all the vacation revenue to the city was $578,000 last year.
26 seconds.
Why not be competitive with Cannon Beach and Seaside? I think Cannon Beach is at 9 or 9.5%. I had it in front of me. I don't have it. And Seaside is at 10%. And I think it's something that you may want to think about, which can be easily defensible.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Can I say something? We have a work session coming up when?
The 25th, but that has been for other purposes, so I wouldn't add to that.
Well, my inclination is to table this.
I think that also I'd like to read the report tonight too, before we get into a discussion. If we could.
You want to read?
I do.
The staff report.
I do, and I know it's late, but there's some important information and there's some folks that I think should hear the whole thing. So if we're done with the visitor section.
Yes.
Would you like me to go ahead and do that?
Yes.
Okay,
please.
thank you. I'll try to read it as quickly as I can. So this is new business for a discussion, proposed transient lodging tax increase and related ordinance amendments. So the synopsis is the city is evaluating a potential transient lodging tax increase as part of a broader effort to address the gap between rising service, facility, reserve, and operating costs and the revenue available to support these obligations. During the financial year 2026-27 budget process, staff recommended that the city pursue additional revenue through a potential increase in the TLT rate from 7% to 15%. The budget committee approved the budget assumptions and supported the city council moving forward with implementation of that increase. The city council adopted the 2026-2027 budget in June and is now beginning the public process to consider the increase. City staff has been working with legal counsel on proposed amendments to the TLT collection ordinance and any related cleanup that may be needed in the short-term rental ordinance. The goal is to bring draft ordinance language back to council later this fall. Tonight's discussion is intended to review the expected timeline, identify opportunities for public input, explain the changes created by House Bill 4148, and clarify how state tourism-related terminology applies to Gearhart while staying consistent with the comprehensive plan. The proposed increase is related to tax collection. It is not proposed to increase the number of short-term rentals, expand vacation rental permits, create new lodging capability, or capacity, or change Gearhart's existing rules for lodging and visitor-related land uses. The comprehensive plan supports limiting tourism and preserving Gearhart's predominantly residential character, while also recognizing the city's financial responsibility and the importance of existing local businesses. The increase would apply to overnight visitors using lodging already allowed under Gearhart's existing rules. This discussion is not a final decision on tax increase or ordinance amendments. No ordinance adoption is proposed at this meeting. The recommendation is that it is for discussion only. Staff recommends council review the proposed timeline and provide direction for any additional information needed before a draft ordinance is brought back for consideration. The legal analysis is current Oregon statutes and House Bill 4148 require revenue from an increase in the TLT rate to be used according to state requirements for eligible tourism-related uses. The current proposal would increase Gearhart's TLT rate from 7% to 15%. The existing 7% tax was established before the current state TLT framework and is currently allocated to the city's general fund. The additional 8% increase, should that be what the council chooses, must be used for eligible tourism-related purposes. The 8% increase would be subject to the state's distribution requirements. At least 50% of the revenue generated from the 8% increase must be used for eligible tourism-related purposes. Those uses may include tourism promotion, tourism-related facilities, resiliency grants for small businesses in the restaurant and lodging industry. Up to 50% of the revenue generated from the increase may be available for general city services subject to applicable law. Council should keep these requirements in mind when discussing how increased TLT revenue could support the city's budget, services, reserves, facilities, and visitor impact costs. Financial analysis, the adopted four-year 2026-27 budget assumes additional revenue from an increase in the city's TLT rate. Because that revenue is built into the current budget, timing is important. If the increase or an increase does not generate revenue during the fiscal year, council will need to identify replacement revenue or make corresponding budget adjustments. House Bill 4148 takes effect January 1, 2027, which makes ordinance timing especially important. Actual revenue received during the fiscal year will depend on the ordinance effective date, lodging activity, room rates, and the timing of quarterly tax reporting and payment. Thank you.
Okay, so what timeline does staff want?
So the timeline is that it needs to be second reading in December council meeting. I mean, it could be before that, but that can't be any later than that date in order to be effective January 1, 2027, which is when the new legislation goes into effect.
Okay, so we want to be able to discuss this as a council when?
And you want to be able to have a public hearing, but it could be at a meeting where you also
Approve it,
correct.
which
Or
would
hear
be no later
or
than
hear
November.
it. I mean, you could have a public hearing and
And then
receive the ordinance and then following the next, and even the next month approve.
Which would be in October.
Right. That would be first reading in October.
Unless we assigned a special day for this, which isn't ideal, but which could be done.
You mean a special meeting?
Yeah.
Or declare an emergency?
Yeah,
Because September could be a public hearing and it could be
just a special meeting.
accepting the ordinance, hearing the ordinance, not making a decision. And then October could be first reading, maybe with input from people who made comments, who, businesses who, hear things, then that would be the November let's see, okay. September would be public hearing, presenting. October would be first reading. November would be second reading, and then it would be done.
Okay, so Chad, can staff have this draft ordinance by September?
Yes, I mean, we've been working on some of the details with Beer-Elsner and Hammond. And staff has started to put that together, knowing that this direction may be considered. So that is possible, yes.
And it is also possible to have special meetings in between there, and that gives you one meeting in case there really is a need for more public comment and more, aggressive changes to any ordinance proposed.
I would strongly recommend that we lead with the public comment, because somebody is going to say something that's going to surprise us that we didn't think about. And we don't want to start from scratch when that happens. It's better to get information from the experts and then make intelligent decisions based on what we, are understanding.
Right, but Dana, don't you think that the public in commenting would want to see the draft ordinance?
Well, yeah, but I mean, what I'm saying is, I think that we, maybe not the draft ordinance, but the outline of what we're proposing.
So if we did have the public hearing in September and the ordinance, they would be able to see it the Friday before.
Right.
And we would not be taking action on it at that meeting.
Okay.
We would just be presenting it. So
then the action would be in October?
that would be
Or
first
at a
reading.
special meeting?
And it's still plenty of time if we did a first reading in October, a second reading in November. Still plenty of time to approve and also time to do additional public meetings if required.
Because it doesn't go into effect for 30 days after the second.
Correct.
It can't go in until the 1st of January anyway. That's when it actually becomes effective.
Correct.
My only worry about if we were to put out a draft of it would be that people look at it and they misunderstood it, or it was an immediate no. It makes it a tougher thing to talk about if they come in with expectations that are, they misunderstand what's in there, or they just completely don't like it. I think that what we do is we propose to them, here's the problem, here's what we need to do. And then I don't even know if we could come up with an actual draft that would be, because I happen to agree with some of the comments that were made today. And we may not all agree on the council as far as what we need, this draft needs to say.
Yeah, that's what the draft is
We need
about.
to see the draft.
Right.
Absolutely.
The draft will take care of a lot of the things that need to happen within the variance ordinances. I think that the biggest portion of this conversation is also going to be the percentage amount. So whether or not that can be presented in the first discussions as a range, but when you get to the October meeting, if that's what the direction we're heading, it's going to have to be a solid number. So getting up to that point where we can have discussions.
Well, so the percentage is going to be one big issue. Number two is going to be, what are we going to do with the portion that we are obligated to spend to put back into the system? How can we find a way to make that work with our comprehensive plan? And maybe even possibly benefit the short-term rentals by improving some of the businesses, or making some of the businesses here in town something that's more attractive to people that want to stay in short-term rentals.
Well, it says right here, those uses may include tourism promotion, tourist-related facilities, or resilience grants for small businesses. The restaurant and lodging industry, up to 50% of the revenue generated from the increase may be available for general city services. So if we're talking about increasing the revenue to the city, why is it that it is not proposed to increase the number of short-term rentals, expanded vacation rental permits, create new lodging capacities, or change Gearhart's existing rules for lodging and visitor-related land use? Why don't we put out a lottery to increase the number of short-term rentals and reduce the amount of tax increase that we're asking for?
That's not what we're discussing tonight.
No, I know that, but this is, I'm just reading off of this, and I'm coming up with some sort of a solution to offset more than 100% increase in people that are renting their houses.
Smith has his hand up, I'm not sure. Oh.
Carrie has his hand up.
Oh, is that Carrie?
I think so.
Oh, that's the mayor, yeah.
I thought maybe one thing. No,
I think he can just talk whatever he wants.
No,
Oh, the mayor. Okay.
are you finished?
Yeah, I mean, I'm just throwing the idea.
Yeah, I think, if you remember our brainstorming session, that whole list over here, those were all ideas, such as what you just mentioned. And we specifically said a month ago during that, we said, we're not gonna discuss these yet because we got our hands full trying to figure this one out. This is not the be all end all for our financial woes. It's the first thing that got put on our budget as a recommendation from staff, and we're working through this process right now. But we have our eye on all of those things that you were mentioning, and there was a half a dozen or a dozen more. Fees for services you use. Mr. Mayor, please, you have the floor.
Madam President, thank you. This is way out of context now because you've moved on. To Jim's point, we're not gouging the short-term rentals or anyone who rents to tourists. What we're doing is getting the tourists to pay more money so this city can survive. When you offer up Cannon Beach and Seaside, between them, they have over 20 hotels. Okay, and you can't do that. They can have a 10% or a 9% tax rate, but they've got thousands of beds as opposed to we don't even have 200. Maybe we do. It's just, you can't consider apples to oranges kind of thing. We're in dire straits. We need money. First thing that came up is the short-term rental tax that the state has allowed us to increase, and that's why we grabbed it. And I think you're going to find out that there are other things that are going to be service fees attached to, because we have to pay for what the state and the federal government's requiring. They're talking about a 10%, not 10, a double-digit increase in the health insurance industry. They are talking about a 3.8 COLA increase. That is going to take tens of thousands of dollars out of our budget. And so we have to have a way to pay for it. And if people don't understand that we're not going in the red if we can help it, but if we're in the red, we're going to get back in the black. We're going to pay for our bills, pay for our services. And if it means we have to charge somebody something extra, we are going to do that because this town is going to survive. Anyway, that's all I wanted to say. Thank you.
Thank you. We were going to talk about opportunities for public input. I definitely want to put out a fact sheet. Justine, you and I could put out a fact sheet on some of this. Let people know that 58% of the short-term rental, excuse me, I'm not going to say that. The transient lodging tax comes from hotels, not from the short-term rentals. They provide 38%, I believe it is, and the condos provide 4%, 2%. So there's just a lot of facts that need to get out there. I think we should get ahead of that and get that out prior to a September draft or public comment or hearing. just get more information out so that people know it's time to comment. I mean, I know you've sent it out to the business operators and such. Yeah, yeah.
But just to confirm those numbers, it was houses, individual homes is 39.21%. That's not, condominiums, those are individual condo owners that manage their own, right? That's 4 of them, that's 2.14. And then Paul, for your sake, we wrapped you up into a word that we found called condotel. Motels, hotels, and condotels, such as what Paul runs, is about 58.66%.
Okay. Condotel.
Condos where we're at, so yes.
He runs the condos like a
hotel.
As a
You walk in, check in, get a key, so.
Yeah.
Okay, good to know. Okay, with that, then I said something about a fact sheet on HB 4148 terminology. Consistent with the comp plan, et cetera. I do think we are a premium location. And that would be my justification for having a pretty top-notch rate. And I would probably be marketing towards couples as a quiet residential place to see the ocean. That's my 2 cents on the line. Sharon?
I don't have anything to say right now.
I do.
Go ahead.
I think it's Mr. Whitmore, brought a good point that I want everybody to remember. He said, we started off in the 300,000 and then we went up to 600,000, then we went down to 500,000. I want everybody to remember that this is not guaranteed money, that the vagaries in the hotel industry, all we need is like one really bad summer, and this is not guaranteed money. All you need is the 26 to be shut down for a while, and they don't have anybody coming in taking up the rooms. That percentage is based on what they want to charge. If we increase the fee so much that nobody wants to rent their rooms, they'll drop the price of the rooms, and then our income will still come down. So what we need to do is, as they said, we need to find the point of parity to where we can make a little bit more without running them out of business. But also we need to reiterate, or we need to concentrate very much on what we're going to do with the amount of money that we're required to spend to put back into the tourism, and understand that we don't want to increase tourism, but we have already said we're going to have a certain number of beds, we're going to have a certain number of businesses, and these businesses and these beds, in order to survive, they need, for want of a better term, they need butts in the seats and butts in the beds. And if we do this right, we can do this in a way that makes people want to stay here because they can walk down the street to a restaurant that's still going to be there, the one that they remember from last summer. I think that we need to look at this holistically and not put all of our eggs in one basket and think that this is going to be a quick fix, because this is a very complex problem, and complex problems do not have simple fixes. You cannot just assign it all to one because there's too many big groups here. And I'm going to leave it at that. Well, I will say that is why I will not, if it comes down to we're voting to we're the highest in the county, I'm not going to vote for that.
I do have a question, probably for Justine. So we raised this TLT X percent for the next year. Do we have the option of changing that percent the following year?
And we wouldn't want to do that. I think we would want to look at what happens is that you get locked in for the year in which it's in place. So we would have that one weird year forever. And so I think you would want to balance it just to see, okay, do we need to go as high as 15%? Like, can we find the balance where if we're looking at other revenue sources, can we drop it to a lower percent and look for alternatives to fill the gaps? The budget was put together with the 15% to balance the current budget.
Right, I understand, but I'm saying, we're not, once we decide what percent we're gonna do this at, we're not locked into that
I
forever.
mean, you can change it forever. I mean, if
We
you
can
go
do it the
out,
way we do
yeah,
it.
if you go out to LOC, they have a thing. There are, I mean, like I was trying to think of some, let's see, somebody's changed it a lot. But they change it all the time. They, like, the purple is different years. That they change the rate and it goes up and down, but it matters what the legislation is at the time you put it in. And it stays there with that legislation. It doesn't move, like they don't get to touch our 7%. It's still gonna go to the general fund. But if we go to 11%, the difference is gonna follow the rule. And then if the rule changes,
Okay.
it's gonna change again. So the accounting, not necessarily on the vendor side, because they're just going to pay the 15%, but on the city side, to divide it all out can be a hassle.
And depending on how we do that, that might be also a hardship on the hotels, condo hotels.
To change it every.
To change
The
it, because
percentage.
they've got advanced reservations.
Software and other
We
things.
got people making reservations right now for next year, right? So then they're already, you know, which we'd have, if we made a change, we'd have to change it one way already. If we made a change January 1st, we said whatever we increase it to, we'd have to add that to it, but then the opposite would happen. And then it could be done, but like you said, there's a lot of paperwork and.
Yes.
Okay, so we
Can be
don't
expensive.
want to change it on a yearly basis.
I would not advise making that type of decision. That type of decision is probably detrimental. I would, if the consensus is that it feels like that might be too high, then the consensus would be where it's a good point to balance. And that's the consideration. I'd like.
Right, so how many years ideally would we want to leave it at, whatever we decide?
Well, we've left it at 7% for this long.
Well, that doesn't mean it's ideal.
It depends on how much the PERS goes up and how much the medical insurance and what's our bottom line.
Right.
And that whole other list that I was talking to Preston, I mean, we have 20 other ideas that we can still talk about.
Yeah. But we don't know where those ideas are gonna go at this point, and we're trying to make a decision about this in the near future.
Yes.
Yes. Okay. Council concerns. Preston.
This is probably the biggest one. I'll leave it at that.
Dana?
The same, still financial, and I think that we need to talk about some other things, that we can bring money in, ways that we can bring money in that are much more guaranteed, that we know how much money is gonna come in, rather than going, you know, this is how much we think is gonna go in, because that scares me. And then also the, Bonneville Power thing, in talking with Chad, I was originally gonna ask that we do a consensus and sign a letter today in support of the county's position. But Chad was saying he might have somebody from Crest that might be able to come in and give us a better explanation and see if this is something that even affects Gearhart and that we want to stick our toe in the water on. So I'm gonna recommend that we do that. Keep an eye on it.
Would you like that, on the next agenda for discussion on that?
Yeah,
I didn't see it
or even
timeline.
just, even if that person wanted to submit a written report rather than an oral report that we all have to independently come in and take time to, I would just, like to know before September whether this is something that we should pursue and jump on board with the rest of the county or not, because it's, you know, I know that we don't necessarily have these businesses here, but I think what affects this county can affect us.
Okay.
Sure.
Yeah, my concern is also financial. I am still strongly advocating for a citizen-led, participant finance committee, if you will, be set up to study all this and to ultimately make recommendations to us.
Yeah, that was my intention.
I guess I'm just thinking about, having another work session at some point. I know you got the 25th and I don't know what's on the agenda for that, but we need to be thinking about that other post-it.
I think the 25th, that was the intention, was to discuss what Council Sharon's working on with me on the finance committee too.
Which is not the budget at all.
It could be members of,
Yeah.
included,
Absolutely.
and other people and folks that are otherwise impacted as well. So we're still working up that process, but the intention is to have that discussion on the
I thought the 25th was also to decide how we're gonna do a town hall and put public.
It's all part of that, yeah.
Okay.
Because it's all the same discussion once we have information, and then we have those discussions with the committee, and then also discussions with the public to help them understand and to get information from them. So involved, I just don't have a date yet for that town hall.
Right.
We'll have to talk about that during the work session and then schedule it for potential in September.
Okay, I don't have any other concerns other than what I've, yeah. Well, he's
Off again.
does the mayor do that?
Am I what?
Oh,
Do you want to say anything?
do you have any concerns?
I do have a concern. I'd like to say that when the budget committee met, they unanimously passed the recommendation for the budget to the city council. All members voted for it. And at that time, it was discussed that we were going to recommend that the transient room tax would be increased to 15%. And at this later meeting, the city council unanimously passed the budget. And at that time, we discussed the fact that it is based on the fact that the transient room tax was going to go up to 15%. And that is a stopgap measures so we can at least be fiscally solvent throughout this coming budget year. And I'm concerned that people are starting to waver on two votes that were unanimous. I mean, we had a 5-person committee of civilians on the budget committee, and they agreed that that is something that we should do. And I just want people to think about their positions in that they've already voted for this. They've already signed up and supported it. And I hope that everyone rethinks their position and will support this 15% tax as a stopgap, because that's what it is. Because the way things are going right now, we are going to be looking at some kind of service charge or some other way to make money, because it's going to eat all of that tax money from the short-term rentals in just a few years. Anyway, that's my concern right now.
Thank you. Would anyone like to make a motion for adjournment?
Move to adjourn.
Second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Thank you, Matt.